Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? My name is Blitzwing, and it is time to review another episode of the Nickelodeon 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show. Today we're going to be reviewing episode number 7, my lucky number, Monkey Brains, which a little bit of an odd name there, but definitely fitting for what the episode was. This was a very cool episode in terms of, I felt like this episode kind of was very mature in its ability to tell story, I would say. In fact, by the way, I wanted to let you know, this is the highest viewed episode since the first two, which kind of, I guess, indicates the reason for that is because it told a pretty good story, and a very interesting story that is kind of common, but without me blabbering on, let's get into it. Basically, the idea is that we kind of start up the episode with Donatello working out an incredible, very complex and complicated chart of how he's going to date April, how he's going to be able to get a date with April. Don't we all do that at one point or another, especially when you get that crazy crush of a love, but as he's working this all out, he's trying to figure out a way of how he's going to be able to get a date with April. And basically, we see all these like funny little back and forth of where basically the brothers kind of make fun of him. And they're like, oh, why are you taking this extreme? And they give him all these ideas. And they're like, you didn't think of that. And it's like, yes, he did. He thought of that. He thought of that. He thought of everything possible. Really, again, showcasing of just how extreme Donatello is about his obsessive compulsiveness and all that jazz in terms of being a complete psycho genius man turtle thing. Madoo. Yeah. But basically, the things start to unfold as April finds out some information about the kidnapping of Dr. Tyler Rockwell, I believe was his name, and she wants to go investigate because she feels like it might be related to the Krang and therefore related to her father, which I really like because, again, as I always emphasize, I like the fact that they're starting to go back to that storyline, back to figuring out where the hell is April's father and how do we rescue him, and I feel like that's a great direction for them to go in. So, as she wants to go investigate, Donatello instantly jumps on the opportunity and says, hey, let's go investigate together, the two of us, just the two of us, and we'll be able to hopefully solve the problem. Now, as they arrive at the laboratory of Dr. Tyler Rockwell, they are introduced, I think they were introduced right away, to Victor Falco, who was kind of like the colleague of Rockwell and all that, and he says that Dr. Tyler it has disappeared and all that, and you can definitely feel right away that something is fishy about Victor Falco. And basically, as they are trying to exit or leave, they noticed, I think, was it an attack right away? I'm kind of forgetting right now, blanking, because this was 2 weeks ago. Basically, what happens is that we're set up in a situation where Donatello has to take on the monkey on his own, and he kind of underestimates him. You'd think he'd learn from the last episode where he used Metalhead. You'd think he'd learn, hey, you gotta be smart about the way you approach this thing. And as he starts fighting him, he loses to the monkey. The monkey is able to overcome Donatello, even though it was a close battle. He loses, and then of course Michelangelo and Raphael and Leonardo make fun of him like crazy, even though he's hurt and everything. And April is like keeps like getting mad at them for laughing at Donatello, but they make fun of him, which is funny, and it's great to watch. It was hilarious the way that they approached that part. But after that, basically, as they go back, they realize that it was actually Victor Falco who did experiments on Dr. Tyler Rockwell and turned him into a monkey, which was a very kind of mature thing to talk about. Like, you just did human experimentation on another human and you've turned him into a monkey, and how do you deal with all that? And in my opinion, it was kind of a mature topic to address, especially on a cartoon, on a Saturday morning cartoon nonetheless. So after that, they realize that Victor Falco has got an ability whereby he can read your mind and predict what you're doing prior to actually executing it. And that's where kind of, again, we go to the story building well of Donatello, where because he's so smart and everything, he's unable to not think in battle. He always like thinks, okay, I'm going to do this, and that. He'll react like this, like this, like this. He thinks of all the possibilities. Just like how he tries to chart out everything to date April, he charts out his battle schemes in his head. You know, he thinks, I'm going to do this, then he's going to react like this, and I got to do this move. So it's very, very strategic thinking. And he's got this really cool conversation with Splinter, where Splinter tells him, when you're fighting someone like that, you don't have to think, you just do. And he showcases how Mikey, even though Mikey is kind of like the dumbest, he's able to do that because he just reacts. Mikey is very natural in the way he reacts, and that's what Donatello needs to do. Donatello needs to be able to react to things instead of allowing himself to just be a complete control freak. He needs to relax and just go with the flow, like that old school Bruce Lee line of be like water, sting like a bee, all that, like be very smooth and don't think about things, just act, react and all that, but do not think about everything. Don't dictate the way that you fight by the way that you think. And I thought that was very interesting to watch that little interaction there. And then, of course, Donatello uses the application of all that knowledge in battle with Victor Falco, as Victor Falco attempts to control Donatello once again and counter all his moves. He realizes that now Donatello has adjusted and is now able to combat without completely telegraphing all his moves by thinking about them prior to actually execution. And that was very cool. I felt like it was, again, in-depth and, again, even more character building for Donatello. The only thing that worries me is that for the last few episodes here, we've been focused very much on Donatello. And even though I'm enjoying that part, I'm hoping that they slowly start developing the other characters as well, just because to me it's starting to feel like Donatello is becoming the obvious favorite and all the other characters are starting to become a little ignored and pushed down, which is, I guess, kind of like a counterintuitive to what was happening in the old cartoon in 1987, where Donatello was usually the least liked character. So I think that they definitely need to make sure to balance that and make sure that the next few episodes elevate Leonardo as a leader, Raphael as, the rebel and everything, and of course Michelangelo as our comedy factor, who is also the silly goof that everyone loves. So that's the big concern that comes out of this episode. But the other interesting news that come out of this episode is the fact that now I feel like April is going to become a much more prominent role within the cartoon, because she's the one that realizes that Dr. Tyler Rockwell is actually a human being is in there, and she's the one that kind of guides the turtles to let the monkey go and release him from the experimentations that he could be put up through by Victor Falco, and they decide to let him go, which was a little bit of a weird decision, because you could hear once they let him go, they were like, oh, we did just let off a giant monkey into the city of New York City. I'm sure everything's going to be okay. And you could hear like cars banging and he's like destroying stuff, which I'm not sure if that was the best choice of things, the best decision course. I think that it would be very interesting to see the monkey actually return, Dr. Tyler Rockwell return, and maybe like the Shredder controls him to turn him even more evil, maybe like pump him up full of steroids or something, make him a gorilla or something like that, and then finally the turtles figure out a way to turn him back human, and maybe he becomes their buddy or something like that. That'd be kind of interesting in my opinion to see later on down the line, because it would not feel like this episode was just kind of like thrown together and then we never see that character again, because they didn't really help him turn back into a human yet. So I'd love to see that unfolded somewhere down the line. I'd love for that to get solved. So that being said, though, I thought that this was a really cool episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I think that I don't know if it was my favorite. I think my favorite episodes are still the first two, followed by I think his name is Baxter Stockman. I really enjoyed that episode. I thought it was absolutely well done, and this is probably right after, very close tied to episode number 5 of where Baxter Stockman was introduced. Very good episode here, and very interesting that it didn't have necessarily a villain, like a brand new villain or anything like that. We did have Falco, but he was more of a human villain and everything. So I really like that contrast of a very interesting approach to this episode. Very non-traditional in my mind to what we've seen before of usually them facing off against a mutated, some type of a crazy thing other than, or aliens or something like that. And this episode, it was a monkey. It's still something that is relatively well known to the human race. So I enjoyed this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode as well, of course, hit that like button, guys, and let me know why you enjoyed the episode in the comment section below. And of course, guys, if you could hit that like button, guys, that would be very, very appreciated. Subscribe, share the video. If you could share it with one person, that would be absolutely awesome of you, and I would really, really, really appreciate it. Of course, guys, I will be reviewing Never Say Xever, or Xever, which is episode number 8 coming up next, and then on Saturday when the Gauntlet comes out, which looks like a very interesting episode because, again, the team of Josh Osternen and J.R. Ventimiglia are on writing, and I absolutely love those guys. They have done an incredible job of all the episodes that they have so far written, so I'm very pumped up about episode number 9, The Gauntlet. And there you have it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Peace out, and I'll see you later.